Hello, everybody. Welcome. Now, you will notice that my camera doesn't go all the way to the edges. I apologize. For whatever reason, the camera just isn't happy going out on Streamlabs, so I'm going to do this. But at the end of the day, this is going to be more of a podcast sort of thing. Yeah, so I know that that won't be the best viewing experience for visuals, but Cadian9, thank you so much for the sub. I really, really appreciate it. Enjoy the new Railgun emote. So, with that out of the way, if the aspect ratio is no good, just sit, listen, kick back, grab a glass of wine or a beer, because we are going to talk about my first delving into 40k drama. Starting with me kicking out a toxic player from my first team's GT. Now, let's say this. Well, actually, no, I have some caveats to go through before I start delving back into the dark days. First and foremost, this is not, and I'm going to close Steam, actually, I think is my first and foremost. So let's just close that. You'll be able to see how the burger is made so that doesn't keep coming up. Get rid of you. This video, this talking about this drama, is not in any way something that I will condone being used as a vehicle for hate. It is being used to make the community aware of a problematic player, and if they have other problems, or if other TOs or community groups or whatever else have had problems with those people, they can make a decision based off what I am saying as to whether they allow them to their events. But if I ever find out that somebody else is going after this person on a personal level or anything else, there is a very good chance that I will just ban you either from my events or from my channel. This is not a video which is a vehicle for hate. This is here so that transparency exists in the community. And I think it's important to talk about this stuff because, in my experience, shitty people get away with doing the things that they do because they rely on the goodwill and the good nature of good people. They rely on people not to talk to one another, which means that the story gets muddied over time. People, lose bits of their memory. And then all of a sudden, it's a he said, she said, and nothing can really happen. But with all that said, so a lot of railguns in chat. Australia's Tabletop Wargaming has joined us. Thank you very much, Scotty. People, make sure that you go and like Scotty's stream, the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, not only on Twitch but on YouTube. There will be VODs coming up from our event very, very soon. Scotty streams almost everything that he can within Australian 40k, so make sure you go and show him some love. Watch the streams. It is very important to get eyes on to our circuit. Matt Morrisoli, which is a very famous name in 40k. How good is hating on people, eh? Not here to hate on anybody. Here to make our circuit better by calling out shitty behaviors and not having people hear about it through secondhand. Hi from Narella Nurgle. Hey Lee, how you doing? Oh my God, Chris O'Neill is here. Dan's here. Second Dan is here. Feud's here. Let's get into the drama. So, as many of you will know, I held the Sydney 40k Teams Open in conjunction with Alex and Glezos. We are a partnership in running 40k events, very recent one, but with this event, we've kind of had a massive splash at showing people just how good our events are going to be at every single turn. I know it's the same for Alex, but I don't have it in me to half-ass anything. And we have had so much positivity come out of the weekend. And one of the crowning things of that was a player that I didn't realize until I'd taken action on it. And then everybody started coming up and giving me their horror stories with this dude. Or sometimes not even horror stories, just like, this kept happening at our community group. Everybody walked away feeling like shit. The guy who was organizing it didn't want to do anything because he thought there would be backlash or there would be whatever else. So, Greg is here. How you doing, everybody? Greg is our state rep. Really, really lovely dude. He was present at the event. We were very lucky to have him and Team New South Wales. So, there are some very, very big names here. There are some very big names. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to name the person, but not a last name. And I will reiterate again. This video is not a vehicle for hate. You are not going to use this to mobilize anything other than considering 40K and whether you will allow this person into events or whatever else. Or if he does go to things and he repeats the behavior, we have a precedent. Anyway, we are talking about Glenn. Now, Glenn, where do I start? Okay, I will start with his interaction with me. On day one, Glenn started an altercation with me. I come over because we had to start the event a half hour late because I was stuck in traffic. There were crashes on the highway. I mean, it's Sydney. If you're not expecting some sort of traffic problems, then you're not Sydneying right. And there are a bunch of other people that had issues. So I'm like, cool, we'll bang it back a half hour. And, you know, that will allow us to start with everybody there. It'll go smoother, whatever. By the end of the day, because of some very smart time management from Alex and I, we only finished 15 minutes late, which is a pretty huge achievement because I also pushed back lunch to give people time to eat. And yet we still finished full three-hour rounds. People got to eat their lunch, whatever. Anyway, he calls me over to his table. He's down on the main floor. I'll put up some photos on my Facebook and my socials and everything of it because it's a beautiful venue, tiered sort of stuff with tables on it. And I won't obviously say it in the same, I say passive aggressive, but it was more aggressive than it was passive. And he calls me over and I won't do it as aggressively as he did, but he's like, why did we start late? And I'm taken a little bit aback and I'm like, wait, what? I thought he was talking about because I just said, hey guys, we're starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow. The RSL got it wrong. They don't normally open till 11. I was told 9, but they can't roster somebody on 2 hours earlier. Everybody was like, cool, fuck yeah, sleep in. We're going to drink tonight, you know, whatever. But I thought he was talking about that. So I started explaining why we were going to be coming in an hour later on the Sunday. But he's like, no, this morning, why did we start late? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was in a bit of traffic. There were crashes on the highway. All the things that I just said to you just then, like people having issues, it'd be smoother. You know, I was in the interests of everybody, maybe the greater good. Huh? I'm sorry, I'll leave. So then he's like, oh, well, like that's pretty shit. And I'm like, we only push it back a half hour. He's like, no, more than that. Like, you don't realize that I have to drive 2 hours each way, and now I'm not going to get home until after 10, and my wife's up my ass, and like, this is just a really shit thing to do. And I'm like, I'm standing there just like, and anybody that was at the event can absolutely attest to, I am one, never really speechless, and two, everybody has good interactions with me. It is a hard thing for somebody to do to make my mood turn. Anyway, and I'm taken aback by this, and I'm just standing there flabbergasted for a little bit. And it was pointed out to me later, because I didn't think about it at the time. One of the players at the event was like, wait, it was 8:15 for the finish time anyway. If he's driving 2 hours, doesn't that mean he was getting home after 10 anyway? And so I'm like, oh my God, that's such a good point. I wish I had thought of that when my brain shut down from this aggressive whinger that basically just said, I didn't book accommodation. I decided to drive 2 hours. Now my wife is upset at me and this is your fault. So anyway, I leaned forward onto the table because there was a little bit like he didn't get to see the other guy, but I almost let him out. I leaned forward on the table. I'm like, I'm sorry, is there a problem here that I'm not tracking that I can actually solve? And then there's this string of and just mumbling off. I go away from it and I am keeping my temper in check. Because, you know, one of the first things that I said when I got up on stage at the Sydney 40K Teams Open was there will never be an excuse for anybody at this tournament to act like a dick and ruin somebody else's day. There is nothing you've got going on in your life that allows you to take your shit out on somebody else. The minimum standard at this tournament is that you will act like a decent fucking human being. Anybody in chat, anybody that was at my tournament, can you confirm that? Can you confirm that for me? It was literally the first thing out of my mouth. Anyway, the day goes on and I have his first round opponent because I go in and check in with everybody. Hey, how was your round? How are you feeling? Have a little bit of banter. Have like whatever. Okay, first report. Oh, he was just really salty. He was complaining about everything. He was just, every time I rolled a dice, he made me feel shit about myself because I was using an army rule or I was using a strong gun or I had done this, I'd done that. And like, I just don't know what I did. And then I went away from that. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. That's a problem. One thing that I forgot to say. All of this will be my own personal account. This is not me saying that this is 100% factual and don't, whatever. Obviously, when you listen to anything on the internet, understand that it's from a person's point of view. And in a way, everybody is the hero of their own story. And if they don't agree with someone, they're the villain. But I will try and recount this as best I can to my knowledge. I will try and make it entertaining because it's content, but I won't say anything that's untrue in my opinion. Anyway. Second round rolls on. I go up and I'm chatting to everybody post-round, trying to get scores in, doing all that sort of stuff. And his second opponent, just everything I did, same story. Just he was getting really irate because he couldn't make saves or I wouldn't make saves or, my guns don't do this and whatever else. Okay. Third round rolls around. You see where this is going, don't you? Anyway, I went away from my altercation with him and after all of these interactions and, best part of the story, end of round 2 before round 3, I'm trying to chase people. They'd gone out and they hadn't submitted their scores. I walk out of the venue, like we were in an RSL and we walk out of the auditorium. I walk out of the auditorium. I'm alone. He's alone. Everybody's already at the tables. I'm trying to find people. He walks past me, going back into the auditorium. And as he gets to just my shoulder, I hear, bitch. I stop, I turn around and I watch him. He even, as he gets to the top of the stairs and about to enter the auditorium, he turns and just side eyes backwards. Now, I had to go and do scores, so I didn't follow this straight away. And I did get the read from him that if I pushed too hard or too quickly, that there would be an altercation. So I didn't chance it. The last thing I want to be doing is folding a motherfucker in half at my own event. I don't think that's a good look, and I don't want somebody to start taking swings at me and force my hand. So I go out, I find the scores, I do all that sort of stuff. I walk up and the one of the people that were in his team came up to me and they're like, oh my God, I just heard, like, are you okay? That's absolutely not okay. We've been getting like bits and pieces, but like just wanted to check in with you, man. Like, and it were really, really lovely. His team were not okay with what was going on. Really not okay. Anyway, that same person that spoke to me earlier is standing there next to him and I go, okay, so I need to talk to you and I'm glad that he's here. I walk past you and I think I heard something and I want to think I'm wrong. And even before wrong comes out of my mouth, way too quickly, I was talking to my wife. And now, in that moment, I had a read immediately that given my previous sort of read of him, and if he was willing to lie, and he was lying, because I mentioned at the GT, and, people that know me know that I am an Afghanistan veteran. I'm ex-defense. Part of my job was watching people to see if anything would happen and noticing details. When he walked past me, nothing in his ears, hands down by his side, didn't say another word. So either he was having a a psychic communication with his wife and was calling her a bitch, or was having a memory. It was just like, recounting this bad argument. He was like, oh, bitch, right as he walked past me. There is no physical chance that he was talking to anybody else. But in the moment, I didn't want to press it. And I'm like, oh, you're talking to somebody else. Okay, that's fine. I've made that mistake before, new technology, stuff in people's ears, blah, 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 blah. But after all of this, I knew that he was banned from my events. He was not going to be welcome back, but I wasn't going to fuck over his team by removing him because him calling me a bitch, whatever. The irony of it, and actually, Glenn, if you watch this, you called an Afghanistan veteran a bitch in a returned servicemen's league establishment. I want you to think about that. Yeah, you called somebody who went to war a bitch in a place that's designed to support them. I just want to let that sink in a little bit. Anyway, he was banned. He didn't know it. I wasn't going to say it to his team because I didn't want to put that on them. They had 2 rounds of 40K to play. It was not time sensitive and it was not relevant. And I wasn't going to fuck them over because I don't mind if he does that to me. I can handle that. If he did it to somebody else, sure, that's objectionable. So we get to day 2. Round 4 goes on. And Alex and I are furiously going around doing our thing. I had to be there. I couldn't be there for half of the first round of the day. Chelsea and I were printing out prize support vouchers and just all these other things that we needed to end the day and give out the ridiculous amount of prize support that we were doing. And so I get there. Everything's cool. No problem. We get to the end of round 4. And I start chatting to Jake Mellon. Now, this dude is probably the best dude in New South Wales 40K. He always has a smile on his face. He is lovely to every single person that he interacts with. I have never walked past his table at any of the events I've run or when I was a player at an event with him where he wasn't smiling, laughing, trying to make his opponent feel better. And he walks past me and he looks like he is like wanting to hit something. Maybe not that extreme, but like he is not having a good time. And I'm like, okay, cool. I need to check in with him. Hey, Jake, how you doing, man? And he's like, oh, I don't know why that game had to be so contentious. Like he just complained about everything. There was salt on everything. And like, it's fine, but just like you kind of just, it wasn't a fun game to play. I was glad I was walking away from the table. And I'm like, all right, we are getting to a point. I go and talk to Alex. And then I find out that Glenn had been verbally abusing his captain because his captain had fucked up all of his pairings and blah, 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 blah. Alex and I, who Giga Chad that he is, and I feel like sometimes we live in each other's brains because we're both just like, he's got to go. And I'm glad it came out of Alex's mouth too, because there are some times when like I can take hard lines on stuff and generally I'll know that I'm doing the right thing, but there is something validating about having somebody else come to the same conclusion and go, hey dude, we got to do something about this. It makes you go, okay, cool. Because I do have that voice in the back of my head that will make me go, hey, Jay, are you making the right decision? Are you doing the right thing? Check your facts, check your evidence, think about how it's going to affect the wider thing, all that sort of stuff. I have that voice constantly in the back of my head. And it's nice to have somebody else go, hey, something needs to be done. So then I pull in I will call them the 2 captains, but it's the Brodies. And I say to them, hey, look, this is what's gone down. This is what I've come across. This is the sequence of events. He's going to have to get banned and removed. I'm sorry, that's going to put you guys at playing at a 4-man team instead of a 5. And they were like, nope, absolutely understandable, dude. We're on board for what you and Alex are wanting to do. So, and this was, okay, so chat, this was the most fun that I have had. I have a pretty ticked off bucket list. I have done almost everything that I have ever wanted to do in my life. I've traveled the world. I've been to war. I've done everything I can. Anyway, I've never gooned somebody. And if you're wondering what that is, it is basically setting up from like a mafia movie where you have like, the main dude who's like chatting to somebody, but then you've just got like, this big motherfucker standing next to the table or whatever that just like the person looks at and they're like, all right, if I play up, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. And there was a tactic to me doing this because I wanted to make it appear, because he obviously didn't fear me. He obviously didn't respect me. So there's no point me trying to rely on that, even though there are maybe a handful of people in the world that I'm worried about getting into a physical altercation with. I know how to handle myself. I can take a punch. It's not a big deal. But I don't want that to happen at my event. I don't want that to happen in the main, this was over lunch, so everybody's sitting there eating their food. It's not great for the venue. It's not great for the energy of the event. It's not great for morale. So I go and get 2 team members that I recruited very early on. One is Pat Spooner. The other is Adam Woznovsky. Now, anybody who knows those two immediately knows what I'm about to say. But for everybody who doesn't, Pat Spooner plays Imperial Knights because he is role-playing as himself. He is the tallest motherfucker you have ever seen in your life, and I knows how to handle himself. He is a big dude. Adam is a bodybuilder. He might actually be the biggest dude in the fucking circuit. So, and I've made jokes at the start that my tournament was a no leaning tournament because there was some room from the boards on the edge of the table. So if people leaned, it might flick the entire thing up. And I said, if I catch anybody leaning, you either have to play all your games doing a handstand or you have to arm wrestle Adam. And I love it because somebody in the crowd went, "Oh, who's Adam?" And then I'm like, "Adam, chuck your hand up, dude." And then this massive arm goes up. And the dude's just like, oh. So I'm like, "Pat," I walk over there eating and I'm like, "Pat, can you be on deck, man? I've got to eject somebody. I just want you in the distance, ready to go if anything happens." And then I walk over to Adam's table, and naturally, because he is the Incredible Hulk, having to eat 3 times his body weight in food and offerings from the village so that he doesn't attack them, he's like, "Oh yeah, let me wash my hands," because he's just been, shoveling food in to keep the muscle machine going. Anyway, so I wait around for 5 minutes with this dude watching me, wondering what's going on, because he's sitting on a table at the far side of the room. And I'm just waiting for my enforcer. And then Adam comes back. Pat takes his spot, just away from the table, but close enough. I sit in next to, it was Gary that was sitting with him at the time. And so I slide in and I'm like, all right, so I have to have an uncomfortable conversation. And almost like we planned it, this massive set of shoulders and arms slides in next to him in this booth and basically locks him in. And so Adam's just sitting there, massive forearms on the table. And I'm like, okay, so I've been getting a bunch of reports, and aside from your interaction with me yesterday, I have had every one of your round opponents put in a complaint or tell me that something has happened at the table, and then I also find out that you were verbally abusing your captain. All of this is completely unacceptable. You'll be removed from the event. I'll need you to grab your stuff and I'll need you to leave, and you'll be banned from any future events that I or Alex run. And because of the goons, and you could look over from where I was, and there's Pat like a looming warlord titan in the distance, just mist going across him, just sitting there waiting for something to kick off. and just none of the shit that he was pulling with me when it was just me and him. Just yep. And he's like, "Oh, I'll have to go and get my stuff." And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Do you have food coming? And he's like, yeah, I do, but I can take it. I'm like, that's fine. Grab your food, grab your stuff, but I will need you to be gone before the start of round 5. He's like, yep. And then I stand up and I'm like, "Come on, Adam, let's go." And I walk away from that, obviously I kind of a byproduct of my service and the person that I am. I suffer a little bit with hypervigilance. If I hear noises in the night, I have to wake up and I have to go and clear the house, basically. And I get adrenaline shot into my system, basically from the point that I knew that I would have to get rid of him. So I'm walking away from it. I've got adrenaline going, like time is fucking slowing around me. And then anyway, I let people finish up their lunch. There's a couple of people that are looking at, whatever. And then I call everybody into the main floor. I was like, captains, get your players, everybody on the main floor right now. Everybody comes in, I stand up on the stage, and I basically let them know what just happened. And I reinforce that I wasn't fucking around when I said the bare minimum is that you are a decent person when you're at my events. There is never any reason why a person gets to abuse another human being. And that if they came to my events, they are safe. They are protected. They will be able to play and be happy. You don't have to like every single person you play, but you for goddamn sure will respect them. And to my absolute surprise, not knowing whether you've made the right choice or not, making a hard decision, the room cheers and applauds when I finish. And then, in true Australian fashion, you motherfuckers, I receive about 40 votes for Glenn to be our player's player. Which in a way does let me know that everybody agrees with the choice that's just made. Because as soon as Australians start joking about something, you know that they are okay with it, or they've agreed with it, or whatever else. And then of course it ends with, I'm like, are there any questions from the floor? Somebody asked what was the tipping point, what got him kicked out at the end, and I said verbally abusing his captain. But then of course Daniel Sherry goes, was it sexual abuse? And every time it's like, shut up. And the room starts laughing and it breaks the tension. It's really, really fucking great. Also, fuck you, Dan. But yeah, so that is in a nutshell me having to boot a player from the event. And you know what? Straight after, I have multiple people coming up and going, hey, we've had him come to our events or community leagues or whatever else. He kept doing this stuff. We felt so shitty, but nobody wanted to do anything about it. Can I send this to my TO or my organizer? You know, do you mind if they contact you to talk about it? And exactly the thing that I wanted when I started doing all of this in the first place, because of my nemesis, let's call him Rogue. You know, I wanted to give people the means by which they are empowered to be able to speak out about this sort of stuff. Because I noticed when I first came into the scene, there was unfortunately too much toxicity. There was nobody keeping it in check. There was nobody willing to do it. And I have never been the sort of person that can, like, I cannot walk past something like this happening. I don't have it in me. I'm not built like that. I have, across the course of my life, stepped into way too many stopping physical assaults, and actually it's funny you mentioned it, Dan, I have stopped 2 sexual assaults as well. I don't have it in me to walk past somebody else who is unable to defend themselves. I can't do it. And the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. And I can't accept shit like this. So that's my story. And now I'm going to catch up on a little bit of chat. I want to thank you for everybody for being here. Damn, 61 people for a drama video. Should I start making more drama? Should I just start picking fights with people so I've got drama to talk about? Oh, but anyway, I'm just going to call out some of the people that are joining us. Django Moria, who is my pat. Ever cucked a flight attendant? I don't think I have cucked a flight attendant, no. Chris is here. Masu's here. Who else we got? Loopy, good to see you. Tim the Sorcerer. Thank you very much for being here. Anglezos, putting hashtag justice for Glenn. I cannot tell you the number of memes that have sprouted from this. This traveled so fast. I had people I didn't know contacting me to be like, "Oi, what was the story? Oi, what was the story?" But oh, anyway, drama sells. Yes, it does. 61 people and only 9 likes. Well, everybody's got to hit the story before they like it, don't you know? And I agree with Alex what he said in chat. And I'll reinforce what I said before. Best thing now is to let this go. Everybody's heard the story. You've got the drama. Let it go. And you know, and don't go pick on them or anything. I'll reinforce what I said. This is not a vehicle for hate. This is to inform 40K and whether he's somebody that you want to have around your gaming group. If he ends up wanting to change his behavior and reforming, then, you know, that's great. He will have to prove it, but that's great. This cannot be used as a vehicle for hate. And if I find out somebody did that, you will be perma-banned from my tournaments. Straight up. So, your rogues gallery has now got a bunch of Mr. Clean. So Curtis Broadley, hey Jay, have you ever had an event come close to the issues you talked about today? So aside from this, I did have at my GT, there were a couple of little fires that I had to put out. And Alex, who was playing but also helped me with this, I will say this, there are always going to be moments where somebody loses track of themselves, or they have a bad day, or they have, you know, competitiveness overcome them, or anything else. And I do not feel that somebody should be harshly punished for losing track of themselves or having a bad day. They should check themselves, they should fix the behavior, they should apologize, and they should make it better. But you know, you're going to get this whenever you have people, especially when you start coming to round 4, round 5, and it means a lot to people. It's easier to lose track of yourself if you're not like keeping a tight, heavy lid on that sort of stuff, or you're just, you know, built different. Shout out Jake or Oscar or Owen or, you know, any of these really, really fantastic dudes. It's going to happen. So I think as an organizer, there is no part of you that thinks that you should just be able to sit there and do nothing. And Alex and I were sprinting around the venue both days. Somebody put their hand up, they had us. Somebody needed us, they had to look around for 3 seconds and they had a TO at their table. And I kept saying to people, there is no question that's too small. It is worst case scenario for me if somebody needs me or Alex and cannot find us and just has to go, oh, well, shit, I guess I just have to accept this dude rolling over me, or both of us don't know the rule and we play it wrong and it might have changed the course of the game, especially at a teams event. You are playing for 4 other people. There is no part of you that wants to let them down. But like, yeah, and I guess the sort of thing that you expect that people are going to lose track of themselves. You pull them in a line, and 99.9% of people will check themselves, and they will try and do better, because most people are not okay with acting like this, or they might do something and then realize after, oh, I'm not actually happy about that. I wish I hadn't have said that, or I wish I hadn't have done that, or I feel embarrassed about what's just happened. So yeah, I think you need to be ready for it. And I think if you take on the role of being a tournament organizer, whether you like it or not, you are in a position of power and authority. People will look to you to solve problems, put fires out, and help them, whether you like it or not. Because even if nobody says anything to you, if you have played under a TO that didn't really want much to do with you, or, just didn't take a hands-on approach, or tried to palm off stuff if people came to them for help, even if they don't say anything to you, people walk away from those events and they're not happy. Because just because somebody doesn't communicate something doesn't mean people make opinions or feel a certain way. So I think that's something that Alex and I are always going to keep at the forefront of our minds, that we are there to be there for people. We're not just setting up the tables and keeping the rules and keeping score and keeping time and all that sort of stuff. We are the go-betweens. We are the independent third party that can solve a problem before it turns into an altercation. You can talk people down and make them realize that maybe they're in the wrong, and then they go, oh shit, what have I just done? And then everything's fixed. And I think that's great. I think that should be how it is. I think that should be the baseline for TOs. Players are decent human beings, and TOs take their responsibility seriously. Personal opinion, but yeah. So, everybody, I'm going to leave some time open for some questions. Serious question, is that a blue Titan in the background? Oh, cuke, like a cucumber. I don't know what that term is. But what is that, Matt? What is cuking someone? Or is it just you cuke them? Like, can you cuking? Is that and no, there is no Titan. Wait, which side? Which side? That is a picture of Farsight, that because my main room light on is a little bit dark. And then you've got Mysterion and the Coon from South Park. You've got Squirtle and Charmander because Squire and Charlie are always here. And then that is a wait. That is a Storm Raven. Do I really want to know? Maybe DM me. Maybe DM me. I don't know if that's going to be YouTube friendly, and I don't want to get demonetized. So yeah, if there's any other questions other than what cuking is, then we will, yeah. I reckon make sure it's known and make an example of it. We're so close to a perfect scene. I hard agree. I think that having open conversations about this is so important. I said at the start, shitty human beings, in my experience, rely on the good nature of others to get away with the shit that they do. They rely on people not talking to one another and having a means of tracking shitty behavior to then do other shitty behaviors and go, oh, it was a mistake, or it's my first time, or oh, I just forgot, or whatever. When we talk about this and we track it, because none of us should be forced to be okay with somebody cheating or making somebody else feel like shit about themselves because they don't want to be a good human being, or verbally abusing somebody, or even, you start going down the worst lines of like, you start getting into instances of physical abuse. Like my first year of 40K, I had somebody follow me to my car because they couldn't understand the difference between within and wholly within. And I'm not a dude that worries about handling myself. You imagine if I was one of those people that, don't do well with confrontation. There are plenty of gentle giants that I know in the chat that do not want a bar of it. They just want people to be nice to them, and they want to do the same. If we have females turning up to the tournament, we have people that are trans or from the LGBTQI community. At our event, we had a little person that came along. That was fucking awesome to see. But imagine if somebody decides they want to get physical with somebody that doesn't want a bar of it. Like, think about that, and think about how much better we can do with our scene. Because at the moment, it is the 0.1%. Let's be clear on that. The New South Wales scene is fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. And it is the 0.1% that are fucking it up for everybody. And in no uncertain terms, I want to get rid of that 0.1% or reform them and let them know that what they're doing is no longer okay. Because I don't care which one it is. They either become better human beings or they do not come. I don't give a shit which it is. But I want the best for all, because I said at the event, and I'll say it again, I've made some of my best friendships in this scene. And it actually makes me physically angry when I hear, or before I was an organizer, when I would hear stories of somebody abusing them, it would make me want to make that person disappear in the night and never show up again. Obviously I didn't, but it made me feel that way. So, if I come up to you and say, fuck you with a smile on my face, are you going to ban me? Because I know you? No, I think that's good banner. If I don't know you, you might meet the other guy. I don't know. I would have asked Glenn if he was okay. Sounds like someone with a problem that needed to be treated with kindness. Not sure I'm actually okay with this. If you were there, you might feel differently. Because this wasn't somebody who needed a helping hand and whatever. This wasn't help-seeking behaviors. And for anybody who doesn't know, I have a degree in psychology. And I did a lot of support for the boys after I came home from Afghanistan. This is not my first rodeo looking at help-seeking behaviors or understanding when a person is in need of something or understanding neurodivergence or anything else. This was somebody who was treating other people like shit and didn't care how they felt. He didn't like what was happening, and it was your fault. Because there is a pattern. Everything that he was doing was something that was a result of his choices, but it was your fault that it was happening. I chose not to get accommodation and drive 2 hours, and it's your fault that you pushed it back a half hour to benefit 30 odd people. My army isn't as strong as yours, and that's your fault. I chose to bring it, and I wrote the list, but it's your fault. My captain chose these pairings, and it's his fault that I can't win. I'm sorry, that is something that I can never agree with. And I know that it may have been that you weren't there or whatever else, but I guarantee you, talk to any of the people that actually had to play him or interact with him, and I think you will feel differently. Like Scary said, a social contract we agree to when we arrive at the table. 100%. That's the best part about 40K. You have a good social contract with somebody and you have the best time of your life. It is the best game to play. Guy sounds like an asshole. And also, thank you, Curtis Broadley. £10 super chat. Thank you for everything you do for the community. Well, I'll be honest, we've just started. Alex and I have just started, but this is going to be the baseline. Not kicking people out. That is only going to be when people have earned it. But I mean, take your stand for people. Being the defense for people who can't or don't want to defend themselves because they don't do well with confrontation. Giving people a safe place to play. Letting people know that when they go to an event, that they will be able to have a good time. And even if you don't like everybody, no one's going to treat them like shit. And on top of that, top tier 40K, we had like Team New South Wales, we had some of the biggest sharks that exist in the Sydney circuit, and it was very high level 40K, but we also had a shitload of new players. We had more new players than I think I've ever seen at a tournament. And all of them had a great time. We had a dude who scored 3 points across the entire event. And he was high-fiving me every time I came past. Thank you for the event. I'm just here to have fun. Like, this is really good. That made it so worthwhile to me. That calling people up that didn't think they were going to be getting anything and getting terrain sets or dice trays, or Owen's reaction to just getting a thing to being a good dude. When Oscar got voted our best and fairest and it came out of nowhere for him and he gets a starter sisters army. That shit is why I do this. It's hard not to just feel a sense of pride and accomplishment bringing that into people's lives. Anyway, looking forward to the next event. It'll be good to have you there, James. So let's see if there's any other questions. Obviously, chat going furious. Thank you for everybody that has joined us for this. Well, I think that is pretty much everything. Obviously, we've got a couple of opinions in the chat, and I'll leave that to you because at the end of the day, Alex and I know that we made a healthy choice for our event, and we know that we have everybody there behind us. So whether people on the internet agree with us or not is kind of irrelevant. It's you're here for the drama, you're here for the story, and whether you believe me or not, doesn't change shit for me. I will always do what I believe is correct and right. And I will always be open to criticism to the contrary from people that are there and are speaking with firsthand information. And it's okay to question things on the internet. I think people should. But if you missed anything, go back and watch the VOD. Listen to the entire thing. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank my patrons and my YouTube members who make all of my videos possible. You guys are absolutely incredible. Don't forget, there are still raffle tickets. We are doing that for the next 4 days and then drawing it live on stream. Sadly, there won't be any drama on that one. I apologize. Oh, and for anybody who looked at it, but then noticed that there was a shipping charge there shouldn't have been. Shopify ticked something they shouldn't have. I've corrected that. This is not a physical product. Just what the price of the ticket is, that is the only thing. We will email you your tickets. So, thank you very much, everybody. My lurkers, my chatters, my conspiracy theorist deniers. Thank you for being here and putting the algorithm gods in my favor. Stay classy, New South Wales. We'll see you in the next one. Jimmy, that video is already up.